Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Rangers Review pre-match briefing. Myself, Joshua Barrie, not at the SMISA Stadium, but Blair, Malloy is there for us alongside Chris Jack. Huge game for Rangers today as they seek their first domestic league win of the season, and some fascinating team news for you, which we're going to get straight into. Blair, before we do, how are you? What do you think about this one? It has all the jeopardy attached to it that a game in August should not, but Rangers really need a win after two draws to start their season in the league, don't they?
Yeah, morning, Joshua. I'm feeling relatively optimistic about this one. I got here in Paisley this afternoon, and there's a bit of warmth in the air. I would say it's almost
Oh,
tropical here at the SMISA Stadium. So hopefully the football on the park is as warm as the temperature off the park. I know it's going to be a very tough game this afternoon. I think everybody knows that's going to be the case, as we'll get onto that team news just shortly. Some interesting calls for Russell Martin today to see how he unpacks that St Mirren defence.
yeah, absolutely. Let's get into the team because a lot of people getting in touch already about the selection. The back four, or back five, I should say, is Jack Butland obviously in goals, Max Aarons, no James Tavernier again, which is a talking point we will come on to today. Manny Fernandez makes his full Rangers debut. John Souttar is the captain again. Jayden Meghoma makes his second start after making his debut in midweek. We think it will be Nico Raskin again as the number 6, with Joe Rothwell probably on the right side of that midfield three and Lyle Cameron in the number 8 spot. You may be wondering why no Tello Asgard in one of those number 8 spots. That's because he's playing up top. Tello Asgard as a false 9, if you will. Jeji Gisama and Oliver Antman either side. Blair, comments as you'd expect. Mac, a good friend of the show. Asgard is a false 9. Gaz not having it. He says no number 9. Really positive stuff by Russell Martin. Let me throw you my tuppence worth on this, and I'll come back to you. We had a piece on the website yesterday about the striker state of play, and I would expect that Rangers will be active there before the end of the window. Bojan Miovski is right at the top of that list. It was told to me if and when the club do move there. Yusuf Chermeti is another player that's admired from Everton. That move, I think, would be more likely if there were two incomings and outgoings, depending on what happens with Hamza Igaman and Cyril Bessers. Danilo on the bench today. But in that piece, I wrote a little bit about what does Russell Martin want in his number 9. And I said there's 3 things for me. They have to be multifaceted. It's a big word. Let me just get it up so I can not rely on my memory. Someone who can, link the player stretch to the defence, aggressive off the ball, leading the press, aggressive, hard-working, and able to occupy the defensive line. Someone who can occupy both the centre-backs, make sure that one doesn't jump up into midfield. That's why I think Asgard's playing there today, predominantly the last one, because I don't think we've seen Danilo occupy things well enough. And Asgard has a bit more physicality. He should, in theory, then make an extra man in midfield to allow Gisama and Antman to run in behind. However, my worry would be we didn't see enough Rangers players attacking the box in midweek against Club Brugge. Does that decrease the threat today? What's your thoughts on what's quite a big call, actually, from Martin up top?
Well, I did say during the week that I wanted Nico Raskin, Lyle Cameron, and Tello Asgard all on the pitch, and I did get my wish. Maybe just not in the way that we all thought we would. I think it's an interesting move. I don't know if you can hear me in the background there. I think they're just testing the microphones quite loudly. Tello Asgard in that number 9 position. I wonder if he will be sticking to that number 9 position. I wonder if he will move in and that front three might become a little bit more fluid. I think we might see Jayden Gisama occupy that space sometimes as well, because we've seen his attacking threat driving towards the box. So I think maybe you might see Tello Asgard not so much as in that number 9 position, but he may move around. And I think it's going to be quite fluid up front for Rangers today. And I think, as you spoke about there, what Rangers have really been missing in the last few games is that link between midfield and attack. Someone who was hold the ball up, who is able to bring the play in from the midfielders. Lyle Cameron is definitely going to make runs beyond the lines. He's going to push forward into those attacking areas, you would imagine. So Tello Asgard, he knows what it's like to be a midfielder. He knows what the midfield wants from a striker. So him dropping in will maybe allow Lyle Cameron to make those runs a little bit more, maybe allow Jayden Gisama to come inside a little bit more, and he'll also offer just a little bit of speed. I think today there's going to be a lot of play on the counter attack from Rangers. I think it's probably going to be a lot more even than Russell Martin would like it to be. So I think Rangers are going to do their fair share of defending. So they're going to hit on the counter-attack at points, and hopefully Telo Asgard can bring that little bit of pace going forward.
Yeah, lots of interesting points. Stevie says, which I think is a good point. If this system doesn't work on a big park, it's not going to work on a tight park. And St Mirren away is definitely one of the more physical games, one of the more difficult games. I know Stephen Robinson sometimes bristles a little bit at that compliment, Blair, but they're a very well organised team. And especially if you look at, Max Aarons and Jayden McComa, neither are big, dominant players in the air. Manny Fernandez is, but he comes in for his full Rangers debut. Asgard has a bit of height, but it's not the biggest Rangers team. And I think that inclusion of Asgard is partly because Danilo's not been great, I don't think, at the start of the season. Eight appearances, 6 of those or 7 of those have been starts. So he's only scored once. And if you look at that breakdown of what maybe Martin wants in a striker, I think normally Danilo's better at linking the play, but so far I just think you can see he's still building sharpness after basically 2 years on the sidelines, and Telo Asgard should be fit and ready to go. We'll see. It's an interesting choice. The Rangers bench, I'll read to you as well, Blair. It's Kelly, Tavernier, Barron, Diamande, Dowell, Egeman, Moore, Curtis, and Danilo. Elsewhere, that midfield has a lot of runners in it. I think you're spot on that the success of a sort of false nine formation depends on people then running into the space they vacate, be it Lyle Cameron, be it Gassama, or be it Antman. What stands out from the rest of that team, maybe the midfield in particular, before we move on to the full-backs? You can't begrudge Lyle Cameron a start whatsoever. And do you anticipate it'll be Nico Raskin again at number 6 with Joe Rothwell maybe in one of those number 8 spots?
I would say Nico Raskin's pretty much nailed on to being that number 6. I think we've seen this experiment a few times of pushing Nico Raskin further up the park, and I don't think it's particularly worked. Thus far, I'm still extremely sceptical whether Nico Raskin and Joe Rothwell can play in the same team, but I'm happy to be proved wrong on that one. I think if Joe Rothwell is going to be your runner, I think that maybe poses a little bit of concern, because there's been question marks over him over the last few weeks about his mobility getting up and down the park. So I think Lyle Cameron is going to be relied a lot on, as you said, to move into that space that Telo Asgard is freeing up. So I would assume that it's going to be a front 4 with Cameron detaching himself a little bit more towards the front players, with Raskin and Rothwell probably dropping back in towards the defensive players. Looking at the defence, I think two big calls in there, obviously. Manny Fernandez, maybe not so much. I think we all predicted that he was going to start this afternoon with the suspension to Nasser Giga. I think Manny Fernandez, he's had fleeting spells in this Rangers team so far. So today you think would be a game that suits him. I think it's going to. I hate to go on about it, but I think it's going to be a physical game. I think St Mirren are going to get the ball in the box, and a lot has been made about Fernandez's height. So hopefully he should be well equipped to deal with that. And then Max Aarons at right back. I must admit, I thought James Tavernier would come back in for this one. I think James Tavernier has been showing the leadership in the last few games, even when it's not been going well, that he probably deserves a spot back in there. But Russell Martin sticking with his man and Max Aarons. Interesting to hear your thoughts on that call, Josh.
Yeah, do you know, I think it's his sign in there. And at the moment, I think Russell Martin has shown who he thinks his first choice. He spoke in midweek about Max Aarons being his best performance so far. I don't know if that was a generalised comment that people would agree with. I don't think he was brilliant, but again, he's only 7-8 games into his Rangers career. I guess you need to get him somewhat up to speed. I think he's been one of the new signings that hasn't convinced so much as of yet. I just thought it might be Tavernier because he gives you a little bit more at set pieces, Blair. That was my takeaway from it. As I say, Asgard does have a height. I think he's 6'1", maybe not compared to some of the St Mirren players he will come up against, but no major surprises. And Jayden McComa is the only option there. Again, going into the final week of the window, the interest up top that we reported on yesterday is one to watch. That's going to be the key area I think Rangers will be hope to be active in. Alongside the left side of the defence, and you can see why John Suter again, captain's side again, lines up on the left side of the defence, and it's a big afternoon for him, alongside Manny Fernandez making his debut. The bench has options: Mikey Moore, Danilo, Egeman, but maybe as we just come to a close, Blair, I think that the interesting thing today is that Rangers need they need the result. They absolutely need the result. They need some sort of performance too. to what extent can they make the game suit them? The ball on the ground, trying to stay in the opposition half. We've seen them concede way too many opportunities so far, whether that be Alloa or Dundee or Motherwell or in Europe. And I know Russell Martin said he added some context to that in his press conference. And there's some truth within that, but also people need to see some cohesive performances. How do you see it going? I won't do you the disservice of asking for a score prediction, but how do you see it going generally?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, Josh. The way that Russell Martin spoke in the press conference on Friday, he alluded to playing this game on Rangers' terms. And judging by that starting 11, he doesn't want to get into a fight with St Mirren up the top. He wants to play this game the way that he knows best, and that's to get the ball on the ground and play, hopefully, fast, fluid and attacking football. I would worry slightly about the physicality of Tello Asgard, but what we've seen from Danilo so far, I don't think he was offering a particularly better option. So I'm open to it. I'm not going to chastise it straight away. It might work, it might not. Whereas with Rangers, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, we will have to wait and see. Asgard, he's 6'1". He looks like quite a big guy. This is a real test for him, isn't it? But I think there's certainly been a lot of excitement internally about his arrival. His first big outing is not maybe in his favourite position. Let's see how we go. Let's see how the team shapes up. As ever, we'll have your coverage right throughout the game. You can join us on our WhatsApp channel if you want live updates alongside on our X page as well throughout the game. And we'll be live, myself and Chris, about 10 minutes after the full-time whistle, bringing you all the latest from the SMISA Stadium. And remember, if you're not subscribed on YouTube, please do. It's absolutely free. It really helps us out if you give us a thumbs up if you enjoy our content too. Going into the final week of the transfer window, make sure you're subscribed to the website for all the latest transfer news coming out of Ibrox. It's going to be a busy week. Blair, we'll leave it there with you. We'll catch up with you later. Enjoy the game wherever you're watching it, folks, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.